This isn't financial advice. People shouldn't listen to us for financial advice. Okay, good.
They can listen to us for gees.
Yes. Excellent. It's a good start. Welcome to Rands Sense by 10x, a platform dedicated to the belief that all South Africans can understand fundamental financial decisions and make those decisions for themselves. I'm Carl, I work for 10x, but I'm not an investment guy, and having these chats just helps me understand more about how to make my money work for me. Our guest today is, I don't think I'm overshooting it by saying national treasure, 2 times World Cup winner, and people should know you unless they've been living under a rock. So I'm not going to talk too much about who you are and what you've done, but it's wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. I guess just jumping right in, we're going to talk a bit about your career, about retirement, and people I think know you the most obviously from the Springboks, from Western Province and from the Stormers, but maybe a few people didn't know that you'd actually played overseas as well at Ulster and Bordeaux. How was it like playing overseas? What were the cultural differences like? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I think France is probably the big culture shock. You go there, can barely speak English at home and struggling just to get by in English, and then all of a sudden I have to learn a new language. And the French was a big learning curve for me. I think language-wise, struggled a bit in the beginning, got used to it, eventually started ordering some beers and sandwiches on my own. But yeah, that was a bit of a shock. And then probably Ulster was cool. I really enjoyed it. I think it was an awesome city to live in, but also the people there were so friendly, so welcoming, and just like the rugby was fierce. It was like it was a lot of hard work, but really enjoyed both stints. I think probably in a broader mindset frame-wise, I think France was the biggest learning curve I could have ever gotten in rugby. I think spent 5 years at the Stormers prior to that, played the same guys every week, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into the deep end. You scrum against Tongans and guys from Romania and Georgia, and like all of a sudden it becomes a different ballgame. And just the experience you gain in those 18 months I was there was just eye-opening, and it just improved my rugby so much within such a short space.
What were the main differences? You say you play against the same guys week in, week out here. Maybe there's just a way of scrumming, or something that is quite uniquely South African. What was different about it overseas? Yeah,
it was almost like a WWE cage match. There was no rules. No, the French were special. I think their referees blow in a certain way. There's no real structure when it comes to scrummaging. It's every man for himself. So when I rocked up there, I played Super Rugby for 5 years by then. So you knew the structure of the South African setups. You knew the structure of how New Zealand and Australia would operate in the scrum. And then you get to France, and my first game was, I think it was against Clermont, and literally got down in the scrum and was probably one of the biggest, ugliest oaks I've ever seen in my life. And he probably weighed 200 kilos, and I was like, now I have to push against this guy, and he's pretty impressive. So yeah, it was just a massive culture shock, and then there was just no rules when it came to scrummaging. It was engagement, like speed of engagement, how quickly we can get forward, not even waiting for the ball. The ref just makes a decision on what he sees, and I had to learn very, very quickly.
And did that stand you in better stead for international rugby later on?
100% that. I think you go through that experience and like that unknown of French rugby and top 14, and then you come on an international level and it's structured again, but you've managed to scrum against guys who is really dominant in their position. They might not be the best rugby players, but scrumming is a big focus for them, and you get to scrum on them on a weekly basis. And then I think it definitely helped me internationally, because you get that experience, you get that feeling of being under pressure, and then as soon as you walk into a professional, well-refed environment, you actually manage to hold yourself up against some of the best in the world, and actually eventually try and dominate them towards the back end of it.
So switching a bit from the actual rugby itself, more to the professional aspect of it, moving from having played here early in your career, you were younger, going overseas, culture shock, totally new way of playing rugby, refs, etc. Financially for you at that stage, were you thinking about the long term? Were you thinking about how to invest at that time, what to do with your money, these kinds of questions? Like, how does that even work for a professional player going overseas?
Yeah, I think everyone's a bit different. Like I think the decision to go to France was based on money, and the euro was strong at that stage. So there was a big financial decision made in the build up to it. But it was also like, I mean, I was 23 when I went over to France. I wasn't earning what I've been earning the last couple of years. There was a financial decision made on, listen, I can maybe pay off a bit of my house back home, or I can buy the car I wanted. But I never really thought further than 2 years, spending 2 years in France. It was purely based on, I'm going to get a bit more money, and then the rugby was also the big part. Was like, I'm going to get a new experience. I'm going to play against new guys, and I might improve my rugby in that stage, and that might hopefully increase my value as a player, and I can earn a bit more going forward. So that was purely the decision, based on the decision that moving to France was a good idea or not.
So you were always thinking coming back and playing again for the Stormers,
Yeah.
particularly. Okay.
Yeah, I was always like trying to play for South Africa, get my represent my country. It was always the first priority, but it was an opportunity to go learn something new, and also play in an environment that I never really knew. So yeah, that was coming back to the Stormers. Playing for South Africa was the big picture, but that was just a nice little curveball in the middle of it.
Okay. And playing rugby or any professional sports, actually quite a short career, really. I mean, you don't have, you don't keep earning when you're 40 into your 50s, etc., unless you're exceptional and you maybe play goalkeeper for for a European team or something. But so how do you think about, or how did you think about your finances, knowing that, and what kind of support was available to you for financial planning when you start your career as a professional rugby player?
Yeah, so we've got a players association called My Players, and I think they were brilliant in the way that they not forced the Oaks, but like almost gave you the option to put a big chunk of your salary away into a pension fund. So that was just some way to keep track of the Oaks and say, listen, yeah, it is important to think about life after rugby. But I've always had like a very different approach. I always felt, yes, having a good investment is important, but I always thought about like, listen, yeah, how can I build something outside of rugby that can smoothen the transition from going full rugby player into hopefully full out corporate or business world. And that was always my mindset. It was never like, Flip, I want to put every single cent away. I was like, listen, how can I use my money productively? Can I buy a couple of properties? Can I invest a little bit? Can I build these businesses? And that's just how I always thought about it. But I think a lot of players do go the extreme of just putting every single cent they can away. And to be honest, I don't know how they would manage to go from rugby full-time into doing nothing straight after. So that is a big part of playing rugby, and I just wish there was more mentors in that space where they go like, listen, this is your interests outside of rugby, let's put some focus on it and see if we can build something for you in that space.
So the Springboks have a pension plan, effectively, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But there's not a lot of support from what I'm hearing from you for like thinking about life after rugby, like how do I transition, where do I put my energy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's slowly but surely getting there, but there's no real weekly check-ins or trying to help the Oaks on a daily basis. It's more of like, listen, we've got this one option for you, but what you do after that is basically on your own.
It's interesting that you say that, because I don't know if you've seen that documentary that Michael Phelps did about his depression post being an Olympic athlete and all these kinds of things, winning an amazing amount of medals, dedicating his life to this one thing, and then coming off that high. And okay, I'm sure the money was one thing and endorsements or sponsorships are one thing, but just the idea of not having an idea, not having a clue about where to put his energy and not feeling motivated to do anything in particular. And that really hit him hard, to the point where, he did the documentary, he talks about mental health of athletes, these kinds of things. Have you seen something like that in your playing career with other guys, not like coming off the professional wagon and just not knowing, what to do?
Yeah, it was definitely something I personally thought about as well. Is that extreme high you feel when you play rugby and you involved in the team environment, and you every weekend there's a goal. There's a goal for you set out in the beginning of the week to try and achieve. So it was definitely something I really thought a lot about, and it was like I had sleepless nights about it, and thinking like, listen, this might come to an end very, very quickly, and as it did, I literally was spending the last 3-4 years building these projects outside of it, because then I knew like if I went from the one to the other, and they already been set up, and they could have been a smooth transition, but. Yeah, I think there's definitely in the rugby space, you hear a lot about mental health, and Nick Costa is not a great example, but the tragic thing that happened to him, because there was the rugby career and the life of rugby ending into something new, maybe took his toll on him, and we don't know the exact reason for it, but there's definitely, you can feel that shift happen when you might be best matched with someone playing rugby, and then he retires and he moves on to something new. You don't see the guy, you don't hear from him. Every time you speak to him, it's been tough. It's been this. It's tough going into the real world. So for me, I was nervous for that depression, that feeling of like I don't have anything to look forward to, and that's why I felt it was so important for me to get involved in something like this, and be like, listen, this can wake me up every morning, and I can actually have a purpose in life.
So let's talk about this on the table. We've got the Tide 5 over here. This is Bomb Squad beer. I'm sure to anybody watching this, they've perhaps heard of that. Maybe just for those who haven't, maybe just explain how it came about, and what it is. It's you and Malcolm. And
No, Bomb Squad started as like a bit of a passion project between myself and Malcolm, and also with the idea in mind of like life after rugby, try and get into something, as you said earlier, like can make the transition smoother. So we started with a beer, created a label, came up with a business plan, put everything into a package, and said, look, listen, this is the idea. And we went to Saggy Stone and said, listen, guys, are you keen to get involved in this project? They said yes, and it took off very quickly. And then from there we started building and plotting out the idea where we want to be involved in, try and get involved with SAB if it was possible, try and stay as close with the Springboks, because that's where the roots of the business started. And so started plotting away, and now busy transitioning from a beer company into a bit of a lifestyle brand. Launching some very nice apparel products, getting some licensing deals on the line, and we're very proud of the business and the business we've been building over the last couple of years.
I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is, are you going to do a ginger beer?
we got some lekker ideas for we're busy developing a new product in the alcohol side of it, and there's going to be some fun things coming out of that as well.
Awesome. So is there a Bomb Squad website, or as you expand the business, a place people can go to see the apparel, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's just bombsquad.online, and we sell all our apparel that on the website, and it's a bit of a hub to see what's happening in the world of Bomb Squad.
Were there any lessons from rugby that you took into brand building, into building a company?
Yeah, I think probably some of the lessons. My wife's actually brilliant at this, so she's busy developing the brand Bible for Bomb Squad, and got all the stories and all the ideas and ways we've been thinking about it. But I think probably with Bomb Squad, it was trying to create something that is like an all-inclusive brand. It's a beer for everyone. It's a product for everyone. We don't try and alienate just the rugby folks or the white Afrikaans rugby supporter. We want to create a brand that's all inclusive of everyone in South Africa. If you think about a rugby team, you got the skinny guys, you got the fat guys, you got the short guys, you got the quick long distance runners, you got everything. There's like rugby as a team of 15 individuals who work together with one core mission and view in mind. And that's what we're trying to do with Bomb Squad. I think it's a cool brand. It looks cool, but it also speaks to everyone. It speaks to the guy who's watching rugby every weekend, but it also speaks to the guys on the golf course. It speaks to the guy who's had a tough day at work and just wants to enjoy a beer next to the fire. So we try to create an all-inclusive brand which talks to every South African, every guy who loves the sport, everyone who loves the beer. Everyone's just up for a good time, and that's the entire idea around Bomb Squad.
We've got a bunch of questions sent in by the audience. I'm just going to quick fire them. One word to describe retirement.
Change of career.
We'll go 3 words. Favorite business story or something you've learned about business?
Yeah, probably my favorite thing about business is like closing a deal. Like it's, especially in the other businesses I'm involved in with the microfinancing, is like that moment you close a client, that rush feels like I just want to go get another one. So that's probably my favorite moment in business, and what I really like about the transition from rugby, from winning a penalty at the scrum to closing a deal.
You sound like a salesman.
A
natural born salesman. What's your golf handicap?
12.4.
12.4. And who do you beat and who beats you from the Springbok team?
So we actually got a very nice group of players together. Like it's every week there's about 12 guys interested, but my golf partner was normally Malcolm, and we normally played against Vincent Koch and Faf de Klerk. And in the last probably 20 times we've played, myself and Malcolm has been on the losing side probably 10 of those times. So we've been struggling, but I mean the golf is just such a cool sport. It's like, I promise you I can't stop talking about it, but just that mental break you get from life and rugby, and like just being in the sunshine and swinging a club at a small little ball that's laying still on the ground, and you still struggle to hit it very, very straight or very far. But yeah, it was just such a cool thing that the Springboks also had in common, was not just that we were aggressive and played hard rugby, but the boys always spent time together on the golf course, drinking a beer afterwards, and actually just telling some lekker stories and reminiscing about the week.
What do you find the biggest difference in like the mental aspects of the two sports, so rugby versus golf?
I think rugby is like a quick on your feet, think all the time, quick reaction, and like almost being proactive versus reactive. That entire mindset of rugby is as things happen quickly. Where golf is, if you're in that moment and you make a bad shot, you've got about 5 minutes to think about it and actually relive it in your head and try and come up with solutions by the time you get to your shot again. So I think that golf is that thing where you almost staying in the moment. You're living in that thing happens. You've got a bit of time to assess it, think about it, and then you've got another opportunity to fix it. Like you can play a great shot just after you've played a bad shot. So that's what I love about golf, is that mental capacity and bandwidth, and using your brain all the time for 4.5 hours while you're on the course, and just thinking about golf and thinking about, so I need to be able to put 2 shots together if I want to make a par on this hole, and that's what I love about golf, is just using your brain all the time, thinking about what you've just done, thinking about what's coming up next, and trying to find solutions as quickly as possible.
I guess it's that at least is more similar to life outside of rugby, in that you have greater time frames to work with, and you don't potentially have that goal every weekend that you were talking about before. It's like, you know what you have to do this weekend in rugby, you need to go and win a game, etc., or prepare for the next one, etc. So maybe there's something there, golf maybe mimics life a little bit more closely than rugby.
No, it does. I think like your what happens in your life is based on a bunch of decisions you make every day, and you would make a great decision or a bad decision. Like this morning last night we had the SA Rugby Awards, and I did unfortunately have 1 or 2 brandies too many last night, and it definitely affected my decision when it came to training this morning. So the decision I made last night affected me this morning. But it's just like those things, and I know I have to go after this. I need to go hit the gym now, because I couldn't do it this morning because I felt a little bit under the weather due to having too many brandies. But that's like similar to golf. It's like the decisions you make on that specific shot has an impact later on, and you can either rectify it or pound on the errors. And that's like how I feel about life as well. Like every decision you make has got a consequence down the line.
Are you a big proponent of that positive thinking movement, that kind of like, successful habits, or, get up, say your affirmations, like do the things that you think are going to make the biggest impact for you? Like, how do you approach that kind of?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in positive thinking, but also thinking and visualizing without action is not going to get you anywhere. So I'm more of a, and my missus always tells this to me as well, it's like I'm more of a doer than I'm ever a talker. Like she would always say, like, listen, he was very quiet when he's growing up, but he just done everything. Just like when something had to be done, like he was there first. He was there first at training, making sure he gets his fitness in, doing his analytics of the game, but he never really spoke about it much. Like it was, so my firm belief is in life is I'm more of doing than talking and thinking. It's just, if I get an opportunity to do something, I'll do it first and then we'll review it afterwards.
Optimization.
Yeah.
Test, learn,
Exactly.
get better.
Exactly.
Cool. Who gave you the best advice about rugby or life?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with some unbelievable coaches, and I think from primary school we had some of the best coaches that coached in our age division provincial group. Then went to high school, had some great coaches, worked with Darby Snowman, the current Stormers backline coach. He was with me from a very young age. So I had some great mentors, but I think probably working wise was working with Rassie, working with Jock in the Springbok environment. I think just the way they've approached every week, every training session, there was a clear goal and a clear vision for the team, and we had to get everyone aligned on the same direction if we wanted to be successful in the World Cups, in the Rugby Championships, in the British Irish Lions. Like there was a clear vision and a plan, but then it was the daily task of getting aligned and working to this common goal, which was important. And I think that, like the way we worked in the last 6 years, have shaped a lot of my thought process in everyday life. There's a plan, but then it's how do you stay on that plan and how do you align everything in that one direction to make sure you get to that goal. And that, I think that's probably had the biggest impact on my life, is the way we've been drilled in as players to not be just great rugby players, but be great outside of the game as well.
And you spoke about mentorship, and what would you say to a young rugby player or professional sportsman, starting to make their way in the world? What advice would you give, having been through this journey yourself?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is like that effort you put into rugby. And I'm not talking about the effort of playing as hard as you can every weekend. I think is that effort of actually using your skill set and performing well in the field, but then also learning those lessons and remembering those lessons to apply it outside of rugby. I think probably what helped me the most was the fact that I wanted to start a business. I wanted to get involved in projects outside of rugby. So that rugby was my number one focus. But there was also that little bit of extra hours in the day where I said, let me just spend this time developing Bomb Squad, developing Pronto Loans, developing these projects outside of it, because that either saved my energy a little bit and not just overcooking rugby in my brain. It was almost giving me like something else to focus on and kept me a bit more excited about rugby, because I knew if I did well in rugby, I know Bomb Squad would do well. If I do well in rugby, I know my network would keep growing and the fans and the people that support me would stay there. So that was like probably the biggest bit of advice, and it was actually between myself and my dad. We spoke about it, and he said, like, I told him at one stage, like, listen, I don't know what I'm going to do after rugby. Like, I had a passion for property at one stage. I wanted to be a businessman, but I didn't know in what field I wanted to go into. And we had like long conversations about it, and eventually Bomb Squad was by chance. It was just between me and Malcolm. But then the microfinancing business was a family thing. It was me and my brother and my dad who said, listen, if you're keen on this field, I've got an opportunity for you. And then we started it, and from there it just grew out.
Action.
Yeah, exactly. Action.
Take action. So what I got from that was, firstly, don't only focus on the sport. Like,
Yeah.
sport is a vehicle. It's great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it gives you a lot of potential for other things in the world, right?
100%.
So not just the sport, although go hard at the sport because
Yeah.
because it's good and it teaches you things. Yeah, and secondly, just, I guess, keeping aware of how that sporting success influences other things in the world. And I think one thing that Rassie has done phenomenally with the Springboks, and the Springboks as a brand have done phenomenally well, is bringing in this awareness of just how to what extent you can affect South Africa positively, right? And that's a big thing. Understanding how much influence you have, and if you become good at this thing, people will look up to you. People will, will look to you for leadership effectively. So, that's a big part of being a very public person, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I guess what I've heard from you is it's recognizing that and understanding that and the ramifications of that, which is amazing.
100%. Yeah, and it's actually using that vehicle to, as you said, make improvements, like using your vehicle of sport to better someone's life, better your own life, creating an opportunity for yourself to expand in various fields of outside of the game of rugby, because it's such an awesome vehicle and you create such good popularity for yourself, but it's using that in a positive way and not just becoming windgat, but also becoming a better person outside of the game of rugby.
Speaking of young sportsmen, I'm pretty sure this question actually comes from a young, I'm pretty sure, front row forward. And I'm assuming he says, what is the best way to get under your opponent's skin in a scrum?
I think probably just in a scrum specifically, like it's a bit of a group effort, but I think one-on-one, it's like just making sure like you rock hard, solid, like scrumming well. A whisper here and there, like listening about, I'm going to see you in that tackle and that breakdown later, also plays a role. But I think it's just pitching up every scrum. Like it's not, you don't have to be the biggest or strongest player on the field to be a good scrummager, but if you got a solid foundation, good technique, you can easily make it uncomfortable for any player you play against.
If that question came from a young front row forward, I think this one came from his mom. And she says, with professional rugby schedules, do players have time to study or pursue anything else while they're actually playing?
I do think so. I do think a great example is one of my very close friends at the Stormers, JJ Kotze, and he actually finished his physiotherapy degree recently.
Okay.
Did all his courses, finished his practical, and he actually like a full-on physio at the moment, and while playing rugby at the same time. So I do think there's enough time as a rugby player to study or create something outside of rugby, because rugby takes a lot of your time, but you still have those afternoons open, you still have those Thursdays open or Wednesdays depending on your off day. So there's definitely space for you to create and do something special outside of the game of rugby.
If you didn't make it as a rugby player, what do you think you would have done? Would it be something else inside of sport or rugby, or what would you have?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I
don't look back. I just look
I look forward. Yeah, no, but like in saying that, like I wanted to go study in sports science. That was something I wanted to go do, but I think my interest changed so many times over the last couple of years. That's went from being a full-time coach into business, into property, it just kept changing, and I think I finally settled on just being a business owner. That's just something I wanted to do. I wanted to create something special that can stand on its own outside of my own personal life.
Would you do any coaching at any
I
point?
would. I think this. I've gained a lot of experience and knowledge over the last couple of years, and I would love to transfer it into young up and coming guys who want to play well and want to represent their clubs on a national level.
So thinking about this year, obviously you've just retired, and that decision, I mean, you said you were thinking about that decision previously. What am I going to do after rugby? You was talking to your dad about it. But I would imagine that decision was in some way forced on you by the injury, right? So maybe it didn't happen in the time frame you were expecting it to happen. How has that been for you? That sort of perhaps that acceleration of making the decision. Firstly, in fact, let's just start there. What was that process like for you, having it come so quickly?
Yeah, got injured the 6th of September, and found out that Monday that it might be a career ender. So within a couple of days, like from being injured to thinking, so I'll just have to get through this injury and I'll be back on the field, to listening, this might be the end of it. There was a lot of emotion involved in the beginning. I was thinking about my financial well-being, my rugby career, the 100 games for the Springboks, captaining the Stormers. There's a lot of things that went through my head. But at the end of it, it was all based on my personal health. It was based on, listen, you're 33 years old now, you still got 50 years odd to live. So what is the best decision on that? And I think when I made that decision, it cleared everything up. Then it went from, okay, cool, rugby into my new career. It went from spending a lot of time with my rugby teammates to spending a lot of time with my business teammates. So I made that transition in my head from, let's see, you're not retiring, you're just leaving one career for something new. And that's actually what excites me a lot. It's that something new is happening now. So it's giving me an opportunity to spend a lot of time in a project I'm super involved in and super passionate about, and try and grow it as big as I can. And that from very emotional state of mind to a very positive and excited state of mind was a big factor in the last 6 months or so, when I was like ahhing about carrying on playing rugby or not.
And right now, immediately, we're at the beginning of 2025. What's next for you this year, as you see it?
Yeah, for me, it's just like carrying on with the projects. There's no real big plans on any businesses or anything I'm getting involved in. It's just literally I've got doing some fun work with 10X. I'm involved with Bomb Squad. I've got the microfinancing business, and then just take it day by day. It's I would love to, in my opinion, stay involved with rugby as much as I can. I think there's a big scope when it comes to media or analyzing the game or working with youngsters. But for me, it's just taking all these opportunities and making sure they work in the right direction, and create something special outside of the game of rugby, which is my biggest focus at this stage.
I would imagine it comes down also to time management for you. Like where are you putting your energy, and where do you feel is the best use of that energy? Well?
If you got some advice on that, it would be well received. I think like my schedule's filling up every month. It's just becoming busier. But you're 100% right. Like it's a lot of my energy goes into my current projects. It's going into Bomb Squad, into Pronto, and that's where I mainly focus most of my energy. Every now and then there's an opportunity to go do a bit of a public talk or a Q&A session with brands, but that's always like the last thing to fill up. It's making sure Bomb Squad keeps moving forward, making sure the microfinance keeps moving forward, and then that's where I spend 90% of my time.
And for you personally, what are the non-negotiables for you in maintaining that energy? Do you have a daily routine? Are there certain things you won't eat? Like how do you take care of yourself that way?
Yeah, no, the missus is quite hard on my case. She's saying like, listen, you're becoming a bit flabby at the moment, but it's no, it's as you said, it's like waking up, making sure there's a goal for the day, making sure you've got systems in place to achieve that final goal. But then it's just getting up, hitting the gym, making sure I stay fit, and helps with the how my brain functions, how clearly I think, and then just working through those to-do lists to make sure I get to the end product I want to achieve that day.
Okay. So when you're in training or you're playing rugby, do you get much bigger? Like or are you like how does it work?
Yeah. No, actually, I'm like trying to go the opposite. I want to go a bit skinnier. Not skinnier, just more trim. Because rugby was always like I had to maintain a certain weight, certain level of fitness, certain dietary requirements. I had to always be in a certain shape to be able to play good rugby. But now it's like getting a bit older, want to take a bit of strain off the knees, take a bit of strain off the neck, and then hopefully I can trim down a bit, and then just be more comfortable in everyday life. Like don't want to be this massive guy anymore. I want to be skinnier but still feel and look good.
Are you going to play any types of organized sports now after you've retired from professional sport, or is it just going to be golf?
It's probably just going to be golf for now. I'm so fascinated with the sport of cricket, and I've played a lot of it when I was younger. Unfortunately, I had to stop due to rugby calendar at school even taking over some of the cricket time. But I've always loved the sport, and I think it could be a fun thing for me just to get, like, if it's another team environment. It's like cricket, it's very individualized within a team sport. I would like to try my hand at it again, even if it's like batting at 8 or 9 and playing wicketkeeper. I think that would be such a cool fun thing for me to do on weekends, just to keep my time busy.
Have you tried any alternative sports? Anything like that's not sort of the mainstream? Have you like skydiving?
No. I'll be very nervous to jump out of a plane, to be honest.
Yeah, I would never do that.
No.
Okay, but I mean, we've got a beautiful mountain behind us. I think about paragliding and that kind of thing.
That could be cool.
Yeah,
but also heights, not my favorite.
It's pretty high up there too. A final word for young rugby players. Like people have seen you win World Cups and these kinds of things. I think what you say carries a lot of weight for people. What do you want to say to any young rugby player out there?
Yeah, I think probably just enjoy every moment. Like you never know when it's going to be the last time you play a game or the last time you spend with your teammates. So yeah, just make the most of every moment. Learn as much as you can. Give as much as you can. And just be proud of what you're busy achieving in your life. I think a lot of guys take it for granted, thinking, I wish I was at the Springboks, or man, if I'm a club player, I wish I just got to the Stormers. But that bit of rugby playing at your club level or playing at your provincial level, you've got a big role to play in the success of your team. So make sure you give everything in that environment, because if you do well, or your team does well, it just advances you into the next stage of your career. So yeah, just to give everything, enjoy every moment, and just make use of your opportunities every time you get them.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's lekker.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
I look forward to seeing what happens with Bomb Squad, and maybe even drinking one of these.
Cheers.
Even though it's only lunchtime.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Thanks, Stephen. Cheers, man.